All right. Hey guys. I've been recording this. I've tried recording this 4 times, and I've been recording this for like 3, 4 hours now. So I'm just gonna go through with this, and this is gonna be my last attempt. I've already sent this off once, and then to Emma, and then I'm gonna do this again. This is gonna be the last one. All right. So, uh, welcome to my presentation. This is technical web design for graphic designers. My name is PK from the web design space. Now, normally you would have seen me publish tutorials on almostinevitable.com, and that's how I usually introduce myself. But this time I'm gonna, oh, over there. This time I'm gonna talk about the web design space, but that's for later. Now we're going to talk about technical web design for graphic designers. Um, this is my home office, and you can see the pulsing light there, and that shows that this is done in one go and not cut. So there you go. All right, now, and I'm wearing a hat because my hair's a mess. So I'm wearing a hat indoors. All right, so let's get into uh, this. All right, the camera's on that side as opposed to that side. And if it's on this side, my pointing works on screen for you, but right now I have to do it the opposite. So anyways, this is all just because I've been doing this way too many times and I'm just talking. Let's get into this. I just wasted a minute and a half. All right. There's a common misconception from a lot of DIY designers, web developers, web designers, graphic designers as well, and that is that a lot of them actually gloss over the design part of web development slash web design. Okay, now what I mean by that is a lot of people just skip over actually designing the design, but what they do is they just go directly into the browser and just load up a page, most likely on WordPress, knowing the audience. And even if it's not WordPress, there's a lot of visual builders that people use, and they just dive right in and start building directly off of that. And it does have some pros and cons. I'm not going to go into the pros because I don't think that there are many. So, but there are some major cons. One of them is that everything looks the same in the end because you are limited by what you see in the builder. All right, you're not unlimited because you're using something else. You're limited because of the builder. So things look the same a lot of times. And tell me if you've seen whatever builder that you use and you go to a website and you're like, oh, this looks like the builder that I've used because maybe the icons and the blurbs, or maybe the way that the mobile menu works, for example, it looks samey a lot of times. And also, if you build directly in the visual builder or whatever, a lot of times you will end up with a very, very messy database. Now, I am not kidding. I have seen a website right before deployment have 1,200 revisions. That is a massive database. That database actually was about half a gigabyte. The database was about 400 megabytes. The theme was over 1 gigabyte because it had all the videos inside the theme. It was a very bad website. I had to clean all that up. It took me days. So anyways, you might end up with a messy database. That happens a lot. Another thing is, a lot of people think that when they build the website directly in the browser, it's quicker, but considering what you get and considering how long it takes and considering how long it takes to actually edit things, it is not necessarily as quick as you think. So the important thing is you need to get a design proof properly made and get that approved. Okay, that's way more important than a lot of people think. Now, And the reason why I titled this for graphic designers is because when you come from a print slash graphic design background, this is something that a lot of people are understand. They get this. Like print design, you go through a design proof, but when you go through web, a lot of people just skip that step, and it causes more problems than it solves. So that's why I'm saying you need an approved design proof. All right. Now, while doing that, if it is not designed technically sound, then there is a problem of responsibility when things go bad. Okay? For example, if you make a design proof a certain way and you hand it off to the developer, which is technically the development part, all right? It could be you, but still, just considering that there's a designer, the graphic designer, and there's the web developer, all right? It could be the same person. You can be still using a visual builder, but it needs to be separated, two separate stages, okay? Anyways, if you have a design that's approved, all right? Now, considering clients don't necessarily know all about the ins and outs of web responsive best practice sizes and all that, and they approve a website on how it looks, and they're okay with it, okay? And the developer, for example, let's say it's different people, the developer develops it as per the proof, exactly as per the proof. And then you look at it on a browser and it looks weird. It's not what you had thought at all. In your mind, it doesn't look like it. But if you sit down with the developer and like get it to the exact same size of the browser with the proof that you had and all that, and it matches, it works. But it's not what you thought, and the client might not think that's what they wanted, right? Then it's a problem. Whose fault is it? It is the designer's fault in that case, because the designer didn't do their due diligence in getting that proof to be web ready. On the other hand, if the designer made a proof and they wanted that to be developed as per the proof, pretty much pixel perfect, which is possible, pixel perfect, but the developer has a mind of their own and they just did what they thought was best practice and didn't follow the proof exactly, like alignments, sizes, whatever, right? Then the client sees the preview of the live preview and they're like, what is this? Now, whose fault is that? It is the developer's fault. So there is a huge problem of whose responsibility, whose fault in the whole process that has to be sorted out if things go wrong, because it's a matter of money, right? So that has to be sorted out. And the thing is, if everybody does their part the best that they can, then it won't happen. That problem will not happen. All right, so we're trying to prevent that, and we're trying to go into a process where larger or more established agencies, corporations, they have a certain process that they follow. This is what I have gained experience in over the years, and this is what I'm trying to go with. And then I found a lot of graphic designers sort of have questions about little things that, as a developer, are not that hard to answer, but then they're like, and then you get unsure, so then it becomes weird and everything just sort of goes out of whack and it's hard to develop and it becomes a problem. So this is what I'm trying to talk about, and I'm trying to help you make a better design proof that the client will approve and the developer can build efficiently. Okay? All right, let's get into it. You need to use a design app, not the browser, not a visual builder, but a design app. You need to use a web design app. A web design app like a prototype app or a UI UX app, which would be stuff like this: Adobe XD, Sketch, and or Figma. Now, I cannot believe that I'm saying this, but I suggest using Adobe XD. Like I said, I can't believe that I'm saying this because I try not to use Adobe, but I do have a full subscription, so yeah, it's because of XD. Now, the reason why I like XD is because XD, I will actually have to have a jump cut here. Now, there was a jump cut because I need to get a preview ready for you to see. So the reason why I like Adobe XD, the reason why I suggest using Adobe XD, and I'm pretty sure most graphic designers already have an Adobe subscription, which will allow you to use Adobe XD, is the preview URL is really good. Now, the interface I actually like the most out of the three. So the reason is because it actually has a viewport height. All right, now that height is clamped, so you scroll through that viewport, which is very helpful in the client understanding and getting understanding the context of the web content. Also, they can drop pins and just type in their response or their comments, which is also really helpful. As long as you explain how to do it, they can do it really well. And you can, of course, hide the comments. And we're going to talk about this percentage in a second. But this is very, very helpful for everybody to understand the content and the context of how web pages work. I don't know if you've done this before, but if you send a client a PDF, they're just going to try to pinch it and like, this is too long, and like that happens. With Adobe XD, that does not happen, which is really great. And Figma, last I checked, didn't do that. Sketch, last I checked, has a preview URL page, but it doesn't have the viewport height, so it doesn't do that. So unfortunately, we're sticking with Adobe XD. Okay? All right. Now, remember how I said I'm going to talk about the commenting panel? If you open the panel, this is 338 pixels. This is 49. So we have, I can't do the math. 400 pixels, around 400 pixels, right? Now, people's desktop monitors are 1920 by 1080 most of the times. And you can have like 4K monitors, 5K monitors, IMAX. Those are a very small percentage. Most desktop screen sizes are 1920 by 1080. So if you take away 400 pixels, because if you tell them to get it to full screen, which is like that to full screen, then yeah, you have what, 1500 pixels? So 1500 is slightly smaller than what I would be happy with. And that's why for your screen size, when you start using Adobe XD, I suggest starting with something like this, 1600 pixels wide with a viewport height of about 800 to 850. Let me show you what I mean. Let's start a new Adobe XD file, right? And see, this is the thing, like the default is for prototyping and it says web. So a lot of people just use this and just take it and just trust this to just be correct when it's far from it. So this is 1920 by 1080, right? And if we pull this down and make it a little taller, deeper, then you get this. And this is the viewport height, right? Viewport height right here. And it's 1080, which means if you're on a Mac, no dock. If you're on Windows, no taskbar and no tab on top of the browser, no address bar, no bookmark ribbon, nothing, full screen. Never happens, right? So if you count all of that, you end up with something around 800, 850. Okay? 850 is just a nice size that I use. And for screen width, remember 1520 that we talked about? 1920 take away 400, then you get 1520. 1600 is a really, really nice number, nice even number that, not that. 1600 is a nice even number that you can use. All right, because 16 is a very, very good unit to use. It is the base size of one M unit on all browsers, which is why that's what the REM units are. And also, 16 can be divided easily by even numbers, all the even numbers, and not all, but a lot of even numbers. And you multiply that by 100, which gives you all kinds of factors. So it's a very nice round number. Okay, now we're going to go to grid. All right, now with grids you need to think about containers, columns, gutters, and spacing. Containers are what is normally called well, some page builders call it a container. Some themes call it page width. Some themes or page builders call it content width, but it's called a container. All right, so a lot of times when you have columns and containers, people trust Adobe XD again, but it's really, that's not what it's made for. All right, so here, if I turn on layout, this layout is actually for 1920, so it should have that, but let's just add like gutters here like that. Then you can see I'm sure you can see the gutters now, right? Yeah, there we go. All right, so in 1920, it's a little different, but it's huge. I'll show you in 1920. So regular Adobe default size, if you turn on layout, this is what you get. All right, now that means that your container will end up being 1640, which is not a good size. Almost no laptop a client will be using will be able to even fit the container. So that means even the container will have to go through responsive behavior to scrunch down to fit inside a client's laptop. You don't want that. And this is, yeah, so it's way too big. No. All right, so let's say we go to this. Now you know this is not the right, this is not a good idea, right? So what do? We change this. Yeah? Probably not. Now the reason is because this really doesn't help, because that's not a good size. It's not a good size for the container. Now here's what we're going to do. Oh, you can't see it. Sorry. Yeah, all right. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take that out, do that. There we go. I always use like a nice pink box. There we go, it's centered. All right. We're going to use 1200. Now, 12 is a great number. It's 3 times 4, which is 2 times 2. I know you know that. I'm just saying. Which means you get factors of 2 and 3 and 4, which is great for columns. But then again, if you make it 1200, then you get 5 as well. So you can get 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 columns very easily. 7, yeah, crazy. But anyways, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 columns so easily calculable, and it works well. Also, laptops, most of the times 1200 pixels width, fine. Smaller, like 13-inch laptops have like what, 1300 pixels, 1344 pixels, I think. So yeah, if you tell them to look at it full screen for preview, that works well. All right. So 1200 is a very good container size. So we're going to take that centered, right? Pull that in, Pull another one in centered. Yep, there we go. And duplicate that. It's Alt drag, and then you get that. Snap and center that. There we go. Center that. And we got our grid. That's all you need. Cool. That's your grid. Okay. Now, here's a really cool trick that I've been using for a long time, which I think is cool, which is why I call it a cool trick. Here you can take that guy, put it into components. Now it has a green border around it. You can duplicate that for your spacing block, and you keep adding that here wherever you want, and you can actually space things really well. You can actually even make that into a smaller block, half size, so you get the proper hierarchy, and put that on a grid line, and you get your gutters. You can use 30 if you want, but you know, or 45 if you want. But yeah, so this all works. Now, after you design something, let's say for example you designed a nice little dark background with nothing on it. So that's like what? A minimalist goth background. So you do that, right? And then you want to send this off for preview for the client, and they'll actually see it at 850 pixels height. What you can do is you can take that, edit the main component, and drop the opacity, and it is gone from the preview. They won't see it. But later, if they want edits, just, oops, yeah, there you go. Just bring that back, and you're back into editing mode. Cool, huh? Yeah. If you can see that this is blue, so it's not connected to the component. This is. If you want to disconnect it, then just you ungroup the component, and it'll be its own thing, and then you can make a new component out of it if you want. So like changing colors or whatever. Okay, so that's I can do that, right? All right, let's go on. Fonts. Oh boy. Okay, with fonts, I'm going pretty fast because not only is a video rewatchable, I don't think you're going to rewatch it, but still, it is technically rewatchable. And also, we have a lot of stuff to cover, so I think we can do that. I'm going to do that. So, all right. So fonts. In order of not just preference, but things that I can support in terms of like preference. Google, and then Adobe, Typekit, and so Google is best, I think, and then not necessarily my personal opinion, because I like Adobe Typekit more, but there are reasons for that, which I'll talk about very briefly in a second. And then purchase, like from My Fonts, for example, and then there's like free unfinished junk. Now, the reason why I like Google is because it is easily loaded anywhere. Don't worry about GDPR. There's a thing in Germany, court rule that you need to have, but then I have links that explains how you can not only keep yourself safe from that, it's also possible to download it and serve it directly off of your server, in which case also Google Fonts works. All right, Adobe, you can't do that. But it doesn't really matter, because as long as you say something like, you got to use these fonts, otherwise you can't use the website, and then it's part of the cookie notification, and that's it. It's fine. At least that's what law-related people on the internet are telling me. So, and you know, everybody's using it. So anyways, you can download it directly. You can load it off of anywhere. So Google Fonts are the best option. Adobe, the reason why I personally like it is because I will be using my account anyways, and that's how I can load the fonts through Adobe. Same cookie notifications. You can't put it on local, which is why it's not the top choice, but it still has a wide range of typefaces like Proxima Nova, so Adobe. Now, my fonts, if you're going to be using stuff like Helvetica, Helvetica Neue, Gotham, for example, Dido, those kind of stuff, then you're going to have to go buy it to use it legally, technically. And like my fonts and stuff like that, which is a hassle, you know. But if you really, if it's really important, like I've built websites like national corporation campaign websites, they have their corporate font, which is Helvetica Neue. So I just loaded Helvetica Neue, the legal version, for the web font, and that works. So, you know, sometimes you got to do that. Anyways, next is the really bad ones. Now, they're not all bad, and here's some stuff that you need to check that will help, but I will still explain why they're bad. All right. So, like these are like possible to use because you can download them easily, but stuff like this doesn't have the numbers. So if you mix match numbers, it's no use picking that as your main typeface or heading. You know, you don't even have the dollar sign. Is that because it's it's because this is the free version. So anyways, you got to have all the glyphs, you got to have all the numbers. Now, even if it does, right? Let's say for example, like I'm sure this does. Like it looks nice like that, but yeah, you're not going to be writing anything in any European language. Like not all European languages use this, but in some languages they have the diacritics and the circles and all that. So you're not going to be doing that, right? The tildes on top, you're not going to have that, right? And it's ridiculous. So you're not going to be selling anything in euros or yens. Oh, those are pounds. These are euros, pounds, and yens. You're not going to be doing that. They all look like plus signs, you know? So bad typeface, bad font. Well, good typeface, bad font. So no, not necessarily good. Anyways, that's not the important thing. The important thing is, even if it has everything, all right, a lot of times it is not kerned properly, which means you cannot kern things on the web. And that means it's gonna look bad and awkward and badly spaced because it's not kerned. You can't, letter spacing is tracking, it's not kerning, first of all. And second, like I said, you can't kern, which means you can't change the width, the spacing between certain letters. So it's not going to work. It's going to look bad. Okay, so try to avoid this. All right. Another thing to avoid would be script fonts. Yeah, like Adobe has script fonts. They do, like that, right? So does Google. So do these guys. But script fonts are really hard because the leading is very hard to control. Like the ascenders and the descenders are just like crazy. So they do not sit well when they're mixed with other fonts. And when you drop a new line, when the browser scrunches up, it really causes a mess. So script fonts, if you can avoid it, please do. All right. Okay. Where were we? Font sizes. Right now, like I said, everything starts at 16. That is the base M size. That is the base rem, root M, and then after that, everything becomes M sizes. Right. So the basic font size is 16. And everything is based off of that. You can technically change it. Well, developers do technically change it. I start with 20 and I go to 16 at like 1300 width. So I adjust things for larger screens and then smaller screens. But everything, like especially on mobile, the base is 16. So that try looking at 16 pixels for paragraphs. Leading is up to you because it depends on the typeface. And also, after you look at it at 16, try to look at it proper context. Okay? Try to see it how it sits on the web. All right? Now, there's a lot of UI stuff that can be talked about, but simply put, if it's an interaction heavy website where things need to have like little labels here and there, then you can go smaller, maybe down to like 14. If it is just simply presented to be read, then you can go up to like 20 on large screen sizes. So that's where you're sort of sitting, okay? Around 16, go up or down depending on what kind of typeface you use, what kind of purpose the text has, all that. 4 paragraphs, 4 basic text. Headings, totally different thing, but try to avoid too many sizes. You don't need to have different sizes for H1 all the way to H6. Most of the times websites don't use it. 4 sizes is fine. H1, 2, 3 in paragraph, that's usually fine. So just stick with that. It's a lot easier for everyone if you do that. Okay? All right, cool. Color schemes. Now, with color schemes and just regular colors, that is, try to keep things consistent in terms of how things are related to each other. I'm going to do a quick jump cut so I can show you some colors. Okay, so let's say you design a layout that looks like this, right? Now, why is this? Okay, let's say you have a design that looks like this, and there we go. You can see color number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, right? Now, if you want to make a new layout with different colors, maybe duplicate a website, for example. A lot of people do that. They want to duplicate a website and they just change the colors and the fonts, some images, and most of the times it's okay, right? But if you want to really have a logical layout that all you need to do is really just swap out the colors and not actually go in and change everything one by one again. This is a nice way of doing it. Like you have the colors number 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5. Just think of it like as coloring in numbers. So color number 1, 2, 2, and then see where everything corresponds. All right, and then and don't just change things on a whim, because that means somebody else has to double handle it and change it again when you could have kept the same exact scheme from 1 to 5 and have that apply everywhere consistently. So having like a chart so you can check what's working and what's not can help you come up with a good color scheme. Also, images should be RGB, not CMYK. Avoiding color blends is also another helpful way, because it's harder to get the exact color blends that you want that Photoshop or XD can do on the web. It's a little harder and it might not be exactly what you want. So use stuff like when you need color overlay, use just dropped opacity, like 0.8, 0.6, whatever it is. And that's way more consistent and it will look pretty much exactly as you designed it when it's done on the web. Okay? All right, cool. Let's go on to stretching. Now, what do I mean by stretching? I mean content, right? Now, pages, print, horizontal layouts are very, very common, and because pages are horizontal. You have like double columns and all that. Yeah, but it doesn't work that way on the web because the browser width controls everything. Even media queries, which controls responsive behavior, depends on width most of the time. So a column or a div, which is a block, stretches vertically when there's a width that is controlling it. You can add more stuff around it to make it stretch out, and then the page will start jiggling, which is not good. So what you're going to do is you're going to prepare for text to go down, not that way. All right. And just because you think something looks better if you micro adjust it, that is a whole new thing for the developer to do. So it's better that you just either go down or explain that there's going to be a soft line break somewhere. But that's what stretches. It goes down and not sideways. All right. Think of it that way. It will help you add more content, longer paragraphs a lot easier. Okay, cool. Responsive behavior. You got to think about the natural order that everything stacks. Technically, because the way that HTML is written, normally stacks work like this. Columns, you have 2 columns. It goes into a backwards N shape. So the left column stacks on top of the right column. If you are using a language, if you're developing in a language that is left to right, if it's right to left, the other way, of course. But yeah, so that's because it's the way that HTML is written. All right, so that's the way it's going to be stacked most of the time, unless there's other like flex reverses or grid stuff that happens. That's how it's going to stack most of the time. And also, if you have 2 columns like that, then that is a row, right? So that means in the end, you're going to see things stacked in a Z shape because you go column, row, column, column, and then next row, column, column. So that's how it's going to stack. If you want that changed, or if you want things moving around, it needs to be clarified. It needs to be properly defined with the developer before any layouts are envisioned to have like very odd responsive stacking. Okay, all right, some extra tips. Made some good time with this. I'm very happy, so we can go into these extra tips. All right, few things. I don't know if you've heard this before, but clients, when they go through websites, here's a thing that I hear quite often. They say like, oh, as a regular user, right? I've heard designers say this as well, but a lot of people say from their perspective, but they say it like, I'm not a developer like you, but from a regular user's perspective, I hear that a lot. Now, I have a problem with that. And what it is that it is just one person's very specific perspective, not a regular person's perspective. Because for me, I go off of like Nielsen Group's research, and I think Nielsen Group's research is what a regular person actually thinks, not what a client is trying to convince me to get me to do what they want. Does that make sense? Yeah, because Nielsen Group, world's best UI UX experts, have done the actual research, so they know what an actual regular person will do. So some things that I see perpetuated that are most of the times not according to what actual researched regular people do is you need a home button, home menu item in the top nav. Having that home, people know, you know, I know, clicking on the logo will most likely take you home. But normal people do not. Okay? So I'll give you the links. You can read for yourself. Split buttons. So this is what a split button is. This is what a split button is, but if you use it in navigation, and I hear this a lot of people do this, and it is, for example, if you have sub-menus, like for example, services, and then you have the services as a sub-menu. But then that services top level menu actually clicks through to something. That means it's doing 2 things. That is why it's a split button. It's not good to do 2 things. If you show the submenu on hover, that's what it should be doing. So if you have services, You can have overview or all services and then the services below. That is clearer, and the research says it's better to not click through when the submenu, when the top menu is showing submenus. That should not click through. It should just be hover, and that's it. Just one thing, one interaction per button. Okay. New tabs. Now this can be confusing. You read it, but technically, the things that you need to think about. So yeah, I'm not going to go through all that, but what it is basically a lot of people, as a rule, open PDFs in new tab. Now the thing that you need to consider is what happens on mobile. You keep opening new tabs like that on mobile. Is that a good idea? Not necessarily, because there's a lot more work to go into closing that to get back to the website. So if it's just to read something, then it's okay to be in the same tab. If it is something that you need to have open so you can compare with where you were, then that's, then it's okay to have it. It's better to have it in a new tab, right? So just to view or to print, same tab for PDFs. If it's something that you need to check, cross-reference, then new tab. Okay, just a general rule of thumb. Accordions, not read about it. It's very insightful, but when you're designing accordions, it's not the best answer to scrunch in all the content on a page. Consider spreading them out, or consider dividing it up into pages. Consider taking some out, but only, and you'll see here, only when it's really something that is worth somebody's time and something that they actually would check, you need accordions. Otherwise, just laying them out is better. Video, same thing as accordions. It has to be something that the users have control over, which is why I personally do not like video headers and stuff, video hero sections. I just don't like it. And they should be able to start and stop the video, not be like lose control when the hero section suddenly starts moving. All right. So those are things. Have a read about UI, and these are things that I think graphic designers should know so they can advise the clients on best practices. Otherwise, if nobody knows, then it's going to end up being done on somebody's whim, and that really is not the best way to do it. There are people who have researched this. I suggest let's follow them. All right, cool. Okay, so thank you for sticking around. That was quicker than last time, I think. But then I got the extra tips. But then, yeah. So anyways, remember how I said that I'm usually from Almost Inevitable Design, but I'm talking about the web design space. So what this is you might have seen the proof here, but the web design space is something that I've started. It's a new, sort of like an agency. It's technically like the easiest way to explain it is like a white label agency, but it's not. It's more like having your own proper web development team, and we can actually sit in all your briefs, your Zoom calls. We can talk to the client. We can help you with the quoting of websites, check for functionality, because there's things that the client might say that as a graphic designer might go over your head or might not raise flags, but then in development it becomes a huge problem. There are things that happen. We know that, right? So with an actual web development team on your side, that won't happen, but it's hard to hire someone. You might have had bad experiences in the past with someone that you thought was good, but then turned out to not be as good as they said they were. There's a lot of reasons why, and also you're better at graphic design than web development if you're a graphic designer most of the time. So yeah, that's another thing that you need to think about, right? So All you need to do is just hire us. We can act as your personal web development team. We do that for only with agencies, designers, not clients directly. So all the actual client like account management goes through you, but we just take responsibility, just do all the stuff that we need to for anything that is web related. You can design, we can build. Also, you can give us a brand, we can design and build. But it's basically what a web development team, in-house team would do. We're just doing it as a proxy. Okay, so that's my new little agency that I've started with a friend. Have a look, and even if you're not necessarily interested at this moment, have a look at the website. It's a fun website. I really am proud of it. So have a look at the website. If you have any questions about how the website was built, just let me know, and I'm happy to answer. And yeah, visit, come around. All right. So thank you for your time, and I will see you in the Q&A or in the comments or wherever. All right. Take care. Bye.